going. Microphone is picking me up. Cool. Alright, I think we're good. Hello there. I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel, and this is like, it's kind of actually my first day of vacation because I took the day off of work and it's been nice. Sat around and read a book for like 3 hours this morning. It was awesome. So awesome. But yeah, and then tomorrow I leave town, but it means I got a few minutes here, so we're gonna do some writing. I'm stoked about it. I'm really glad I actually had the chance to do some writing today, because I will not really have time for it all weekend really until I get back. I'll be back Tuesday, because I get back into town Monday, and then Tuesday is the day that I have again taken off of work after the vacation, so that way I don't have to like drive back into town Monday night and then get up and go to work Tuesday morning, because it's always the worst. I learned that from my parents. Whenever you're taking a vacation, plan that extra day to get back, so that way you have like a day to handle things like laundry, you know, from your clothes that you packed over the course of the vacation and stuff, and you can like re-tidy up your apartment or your home. For me, it's an apartment. You can like re-tidy everything up, get everything sort of reorganized, reacclimate, have a day, in my case, to just snuggle with my cat, because she's gonna be super lonely and deprived after a weekend of hanging out here without me and just being visited by my little nephews a couple times a day is all, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. But yeah, that Tuesday I'll definitely be itching to get some writing. I'm planning on taking like a notebook with me, so I can just like jot down some ideas. And that's the beautiful part about that vacation that's coming up, is the main purpose of it is to do a lot of kickboxing training. But it's going up to it's like a retreat in a way. We're going to, we got to go to a city because that's where the gym is, but it's a city that's like right located around a bunch of just wilderness and like wood trails and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have the opportunity to just get outside for a good chunk of most every day that I'm there, and just see some beautiful scenery and stuff. And I always get a lot of inspiration, so I'm gonna be stoked to bring a lot of those ideas back. But for now, I do not have any of those ideas. We only have the ideas we've been working on, so let's just go ahead and work on them, right? So here we are. We were working on putting in the details of our little introductory dungeon for our players for this campaign that we've been working on. Yeah, we got almost halfway through it. I mean, we're kind of more than halfway done with the dungeon as a whole, because the dungeon, like, we've done all of our sort of like background, baseline, lore type of stuff, our random encounter tables and all that kind of stuff. We've already taken care of all of that, so we don't, like, that kind of puts us a little bit past the halfway mark, but we've done 4 out of 10 rooms in terms of writing down the details there, so we still got a little bit of work to do there. But yeah, let's just do it. Let's pull up, we need to pull up our actual map here. So we'll get that loaded up here so we can kind of re-get our bearings, reestablish. Oh, that's right. I kind of forgot we were doing all of this, like, these root motifs and everything in here, which actually I think look really rad. It's really good for the sort of atmosphere we're trying to build here, because this isn't like a cliffside cave. It's like a hillside cave with a bunch of trees and prairie grasses and stuff over top of it, so there's going to be a lot more like root invasion into the area. It's like more of a damp, muddy, dirt type of like hobbit hole type place, as opposed to being like a stone cliffside seaside cave or something like that, right? It's a little different in terms of atmosphere, so that actually works out. So this looks really nice. I actually really like this. I like how this is coming out. And that's right, we had all the bodies that were going to shrooms, and that's why there's all kinds of boars and everything there. Cool. All right. So, working on room number 5 here. We're gonna go ahead and bring that there and that there. So that way we can kind of see them all simultaneously here. Oh wow, you know, this is really nice when we can actually like hide the bar here. There's got to be a hotkey to do that I just am not aware of, because like this gives us plenty of space to see. I mean, once you pull up all of the interactive parts to be able to modify it, we're going to need our full screen back. But for now, that's a nice little view we got going on there. So, room 5, that's where we left off. We left off with room 5. We had, that's right, like the first 7 rooms all have combat practically. First 6 rooms have combat, and then we had one other combat there. And we, room 6 is going to end up being the boss one. I'm just trying to regain my bearings here a little bit. Regain a sense of how this dungeon sort of randomly was laid out, just to make sure. I feel like I remember sort of double checking and making sure that the flow of the dungeon works, so that finding different keys, which were just machetes to chop down, you know, various thicker roots that are blocking passageways and stuff, but you want to make sure that those keys are accessible in a proper order that allows players to like actually get them. Because when you're doing randomness with all of this stuff, it's easy to kind of goof that up and end up in a situation where your players are blocked off from a key because the lock, you know, quote unquote, the lock that it opens is what's blocking the key in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's because you have to go past the locked room or it's in the locked room, either way, you know, and that's what you really want to avoid. That's it's an easy mistake to make. And I know that because I've made that mistake many times, and it's awkward and uncomfortable because you either have to ad-lib it and like try to not be too flustered as you're trying to fix the issue there when you're playing live, or you have to admit to your players that you're an idiot. Which for me isn't usually a big deal because I play with my friends, and so they know I'm an idiot anyway, so there's really not much to lose in just admitting it there, so I usually will. But if you're trying to obtain a bit more of a reputation, then you want to avoid that scenario. So it's best to, really what I'm saying is, it's best to avoid it before it even becomes an issue. And that's what we're working on here, and that's what we just want to make sure we pay attention to. So, the thing, so, and I feel like I remember, so room 4 has a key in it here. So 4 has a key. 5, let's see here. So the ones, so the best way to do this actually is to pay attention to the ones that are going to be locked and keep a note on those. So the ones that are going to be locked in this situation are going to be room 6. Oh, nice. There's a little woodpecker out on my bird feeder. That's fun and exciting, especially for Kitty. Little cat's very excited about that. Sorry, I have the windows open. I'm not even listening to music today. I have the windows open. It's a lovely day. Where I live, we are entering that phase of the summer where like the hottest part of the summer is kind of tapering off. It's probably not gone yet. We'll probably still have plenty of hot days, but it's like the average temperature is now on the downswing. So we're still getting that nice sunny summer weather without it being quite as oppressively hot. And that's kind of my favorite time of year. Like that's when I'm most comfortable. You know, you get a lot of active critters as it starts making that swing towards fall. You get a lot of critters getting pretty active, trying to get ready for surviving the winter and everything. So they're a lot more active, you know, foraging for food and all that kind of stuff. And it just, where I live, I have a nice small little patch of woods right outside my window. So I get to enjoy a lot of that sort of natural wildlife. It's like the amount of wildlife you'd find in a park in the middle of a city, because it's essentially what it is. But I don't know, it's really nice. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Just rambling on about it, but yeah, no, it's quite lovely. So if I get distracted, that's why. My apologies. That woodpecker's just going. He's just going. He's like tapping. He's not even trying to use the openings in the bird feeder. He's just like tapping the plastic sleeve that holds the seeds. Goofball. Anyway, so we know that the rooms that are going to be locked are room 6, because that's got our sort of boss battle set up in it. Room 7 is going to be locked, because it has the compass, and then room 3 is locked for the map. So 6, 7, and 3. It's just like I don't know if my mic is picking it up. Hold on. I don't think it's picking it up. Anyway, sorry, I'm very distractible today. Like I'm clearly in a good headspace because my mind is just happily wandering any direction, just having fun, whatever it thinks of. I'm in a chill, happy place today, cause I don't have to work. I don't have to work for the next few days. Get to go on a vacation. Get to go to one of my favorite places in the world. I'm in a good place, man. I'm in a good place today. Anyways, okay, so we need to pay attention to what rooms are locked. So 7 and 3 need keys to get into them. Need our regular keys. And then 4 and 10, or no, 4 and 9 have those keys. Yeah, 4 and 9 are the ones that have those keys. So 4 and 9. So the 2 regular keys are there, which then unlocks everything except for room 2 is blocked off by the boss key. But room 2 does not have our boss key. In fact, room 2, it's kind of perfect. Room 2 just randomly doesn't have any treasure in it at all. So it's okay that 2 is blocked off. So, if we've got our keys here and the rooms that are going to be quote-unquote locked are here and here, then no sweat, because players will have ample opportunity to get both of the keys before they get, without having to open up any locks. Like I say, that's what you want to be careful of. You want to make sure that it's possible to get the keys and not have them blocked off by the locks. So that's perfect. And then the boss, the boss room here, room number 6, the boss key is in room 1, which is up here. So perfect. It's basically like this corner of the map is blocked off by needing all the keys, and the keys can all be found over on this half. So it worked out, and I'd like to say that it's because I'm super smart and I planned it that way, but it was just complete random luck, because that's how the random dice rolled, and it just happened to work out this time. You always make edits when you need to, but exactly from this process of paying attention and making sure we know what's going on in our dungeon. But yeah, so we're good to go on there. I just wanted to double check that. I remembered thinking about it, and I thought I remembered checking on it, but I'm glad I double checked it. It's that philosophy that comes from, I learned this one from my dad, helping him with all kinds of different home repair projects growing up as a kid. The concept of measure twice, cut once. Like the obvious application of that being double check when you're about to cut your boards, because you don't want to accidentally cut a board too long or too short from what you actually need, because especially if you cut it like too short, then you can't really add wood back onto it. So same thing goes with making a dungeon. You want to make sure that you double check it all before you really finalize everything. Otherwise, then you're just gonna be in an embarrassing situation when you're DMing and actually running the thing, because you're gonna sit there and you're gonna realize, like, oh damn, I fucked up, and then it's just gonna be awkward, and people are gonna make fun of you and call you an idiot, and you're just gonna hang your head in shame because you know it's true at that point in time. You've got no excuse. So that's that's how it goes sometimes. But if we can avoid it, we're gonna avoid it. That right there is the smartest approach every single time. So, anywho, we got that ironed out. We know we're good to go. So now let's go ahead and just keep filling out our rooms here. So this room is going to have a battle worth 215 experience in it. This is room 5 we're working on here. So actually we can just kind of come in here. Room number 5, this is the room we're working on. So we have a 200 experience battle, and that's one of our easiest battles. Or no, it's not. It's our medium difficulty battle. And that is going to be. So now we're going to look at our monster collection here. So now one thing I realized that I kind of gloss over it sometimes. Some people might wonder why I take the time to like plan out what monsters are going to be in a dungeon. I mean, obviously, it's going to be important to make sure you know what sort of challenge ratings and everything of monsters you're going to put in there, even if you don't use the challenge rating, because I know it's kind of a, I don't know if I want to say controversial, but a lot of people have doubts about how effective it is, and that's reasonable. My solution always, because I've run into situations where the challenge rating is just a little off, because it does its best mathematically, but just the way things end up, a lot of times it can just be a result of your parties, your players, the party composition versus what the specific traits of the enemies are. For example, my players once had an encounter that was supposed to be pretty easy for them, because it was just like one of the giant constrictor snakes, but none of them had any sort of strength capabilities to handle the constrictor snake, so they found themselves in trouble pretty quick, right? And so the solution to those types of situations I always find is I still use our challenge ratings as a baseline. I'm just always willing to modify monsters' stats and traits and health and armor and all that kind of stuff on the fly, as long as it's not like too blatant and egregious. It's pretty easy to just like shave the health in half and make it a bit easier for players to get that triumphant kill in there. Of course, that doesn't matter if your party is in a situation where they're perfectly ready and willing to all die, but if it's like that situation that I'm describing, that situation I was in with my players, and it's only their second session, you don't want them to die, you just kind of modify things on the fly, and it works out pretty well that way. Hey, Danny, how's it going? Can't say it launched. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you stopping by, and it's going to be hard for my day to not go well, because it is sunny out. I am on my first day of a long weekend vacation, so I'm like cruising on cloud 9 right now. I'm in a good place, and yeah, is a good day, and I appreciate you stopping by. That means a lot to me. But yeah, so going with all of these monsters and everything like that, like I say, in the first place, using the challenge rating, I know a lot of people have doubts on that. You do what you got to do as a DM. For me personally, I stick to them, I wouldn't say religiously, but like I stick to them pretty tight, just because it is a time saver. It is such a valuable tool to just kind of have this like rough math already done for me, so I can just kind of go through the list and be like, all right, we'll just grab this one, this one, this one, this one, and boom, there's our enemies. Because if I were to sit there and try to reanalyze for every single combat or every single dungeon, like do my own formulas and like sit there and read the stats of every single possible monster until I find the exact right ones, I'd be working on a single dungeon for months. It would take ages. So I find it best to do that. And in that same vein, that's kind of why I choose just, in this case, 4 monsters. Pretty much every dungeon I choose 4 monsters and just kind of mix and match them. And the reason I do that is because it will help keep a sort of thematic cohesion within the entire dungeon. There's times when you might want a wider diversity of enemies available to your players, and this is when I'm saying only picking 4. That's like per level per dungeon. So when I have multiple levels of a dungeon, especially if things are supposed to get more and more difficult as things go, I will be willing to throw a little bit of variety in there, without too much hesitation, between levels. But within the same level, if you do that, it helps it helps kind of create that consistent theme and sort of theater of the mind visual for your players to have. Like if they're in a single dungeon that has everything from, like you've got mind flayers, and then you also have boars, and then you also have a kobold flying around here and there, like a flying kobold, around in these places, and you also have some ooze, and there's just like all this random stuff, animated armors. Like if you have a dungeon all there, like it still works, and it's not a bad thing per se, but then it kind of quickly turns into, default dungeon with random enemies in it, and it sort of turns into, I'm trying to think about like a way to compare it. you know, something else in media that it can compare to. And like, I don't know, it lacks a sense of direction when you do that, which again can be fine. And there are times, in fact, when that's a really, like, that is kind of the intention there. If you're in just some sort of like crazed mad scientist type of lair who's just experimenting with all kinds of random crapola that they feel like doing, then that makes sense. That is your theme, and so you do want to go ahead and vary things up. But when we're talking about a situation like this dungeon we're working on right now, where it's a very defined, it's a small-ish cave that's in a hillside in the middle of the plains, you kind of want that cohesive thing. I want my players to feel like that's what's going on the whole time. So we've picked our enemies, right? We've got our hyenas, a giant hyena as the boss, some boars, and some snakes that are living in here. Those are all plains, prairie type of animals that one would expect to run into. It makes sense any of them would, you know, go in, hyenas being, you know, more nocturnal than they are diurnal. They'll, you know, go and hide in the cave during the day and just be chilling out in there. Boars and snakes themselves might be in the cave trying to get away from the hot sun or something like that. So it's like, it makes sense. And there's not going to be this jarring departure from what, you know, there was in one room to the next room if we keep this consistency. So that's why I try to keep the types of enemies that I have small and consistent, at least within the same floor. So I don't know. Like has become one of my favorite phrases. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I know a little long and rambly and windy to say that, but it's something that I tend to gloss over because I've explained it a lot in past streams. But it's, you know, it's a good thing to keep re-explaining these things, just because I know audiences tend to vary. We get new people coming in. We get, you know, even if it's the same people, you know, you forget things as they go, and so it's worth taking the time to rethink about those. And even for me, it's worth taking the time to just pause and think about it every once in a while to make sure that it's still relevant to what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish with what I'm writing. So at any rate, that's the wisdom behind this. And so because we have these, we need to come up with 215 experience points worth of battle here. We're going to avoid the giant hyena because that's our boss. We only really want one. He's going to be like big boss man hyena. So there can only be one. He's the Highlander hyena. The hyena lander. I don't know. That's a stretch. Doesn't work as well. Anywho, so let me look and remember what types of compositions of enemies we already have. We have one with lots of hyenas and snakes. We have one that's just all boars. What a bore. Oh god, I cracked myself up. Okay, so we've done one that's all boars. So, which is like the obvious and easy one. But we could do one that's got 2 boars and 4 snakes. Or we could do like 8 snakes. That actually would be kind of funny. Just like a big, huge. It could be one of them weird ass like mating piles of snakes that they do, because that's what snakes do. They just like all pile up and they make a big party of it. And it's like, it's fascinating from a nature standpoint, but from a, like, if you stand there and look at it, oops, no, we don't need that alarm today. You know, like if you look at it from a nature standpoint, it's really cool and fascinating. But then if you try to think about it for what it is and think about what if humans did that, suddenly it takes a very specific tone. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to talk about it being snakes. So we're going to go ahead and chuck down 8 of them snakes, because 8 times 25, you know, 25 XP, and we need about 215 XP. We could throw 9 in there. Actually, let me think here. So that's 320. So we've got 5 extra from that one. But we're breaking even on that one. I'm going to take a quick tally to see if we're ahead or below on our XP, just to make sure that I don't accidentally fall short in providing players XP. But see, now this one we're 15 experience behind. And then with this one, that's 30 plus 75. That gives us 105. So we're 15 behind. So we're going to go ahead and throw in 9 poisonous snakes. They can handle it. It'll be fine. So, and if they're not, like I say, you can just as a DM modify it on the fly. There are some people who, when they DM, they try to stick to the rules as closely as possible, and that is a perfectly fine approach. I don't even want to say it that way. Like, it's a good approach. It's a good approach. It's a fair approach. And I actually try to have that be my baseline of just using the rules. But I feel like we discussed it earlier this week. I'm very much a rule of cool DM, where it's like, if something is better for the story that my players are trying to tell about themselves as they're going, I will fudge things a little bit. I'm not afraid to do that as a DM. But you gotta do your own thing. You gotta do your own thing, you know. So just make sure you plan your encounters and stuff accordingly, because even as a strict and harsh DM, you don't want to go out of your way to try and murder your players. Because if that's all you want to do, just, you know, chuck a trask at them and laugh as they, you know, cry and lose their players on session 1. Take that. But yeah, so room 5 combat. We'll get the details in there, but in a minute. But I quickly want to just put our poisonous snakes in here, just so it's in there. This is going to be a fun one to describe. Would it be too crass for me to describe it as an orgy of snakes? Because that's what it is. That's what it is when they do one of the mating things. Maybe I should just avoid that in general and just say it's a big pile of snakes. I don't know. Hey, Enforcer Hound. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Hopefully things are going well for you. You jumped in at the most awkward time as we're discussing what 9 snakes would be doing in a single room together, and there's kind of one answer for that, and it's one of them big snake mating piles. And I'm sitting here having a debate with myself out loud about how vulgar I want to get in my descriptions of my game here. It's one of those things where I might just, like, in the general notes, especially if I'm thinking about maybe one day, you know, sharing and disseminating this particular campaign with other people, maybe it's best to just, like, keep it vanilla, and we'll let people sort of add their own spice to it as they describe it as the DM. You know, leave it up to in the moment discretion. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. But we'll say, let's see here. This is, let me look at the position of this room. So 8. I'm just trying to think about how I want to describe the room here, because I like to try and add a little bit of creative flair to how I write things. Room 8 is going to be pretty bright, all things considered, with this being the opening and a lot of natural light kind of flooding in. 5 is going to be pretty dim because of that, so we can add that, just give room 5 a little bit of uniqueness. Caves can be tough because people rarely decorate a cave unless it's a cave lair or something like that. So caves can get kind of tough because it can very quickly devolve to, you walk into a room that has dirt walls and rocks. It's dusty and it's dark, and it's like that's all you can describe because it's what every room looks like. So that's why I go out of my way to, like, this room has mushrooms in it. Whoa, you know, this room has a puddle. It's like you take whatever you can to add a bit of detail to it. So let's see here. Walking into this room causes. Let me see. How do I want to say this? Because I always write this down too as something that I can just read, you know, as like I can read it as if I'm narrating what the players are seeing. So that way I don't have to try and always come up with things on the fly. I can just, like, read what I've said verbatim and just present it to players as if it were like a text adventure game that they're reading on their computer screen. So we'll say it takes a moment for your eyes to adjust to this room. The last room, let's hear, we'll say small traces of light from the entrance pass through the last room and offer just a dim amount of light to enter this one. Boom, there we go. I just noticed that there's an extra space there, and I don't like it because it looks weird. Sorry. Dim amount of light to enter this one. At first, it seems completely empty, save for the dirt and roots that make up the walls of this hillside cavern. But as you, let's see, as you adjust to the dim light, you notice a what appears to be a pile of rope in the corner. As you squint, however, you are startled to see that the pile of ropes is moving ever so slightly. Soon the pile begins moving towards you. Oops, wow, butchered that one. Towards you, and you suddenly understand that it is a collection of snakes and not ropes that are attacking you. Boom! There we go. Okay, attempting to make an antagonist for a writing project. Ooh, okay. Been working on it. Don't know what you're doing. Hey, you just described my whole life. I've been working on it, but I don't know what I'm doing. It's you're in good company, my friend. You're in good company. What kind of antagonist are you looking for? I mean, it's kind of I guess it kind of comes down to what's the writing project? Is it like a fantasy type of writing project? Is it I'm assuming it's fiction if you're trying to make up an antagonist. But we can try and crowdsource an antagonist. Okay, so this room is gonna have the health and buffs in it. So we're gonna say potions for the prizes in here. In one corner of this room, there are two skeletons lying among the remains of long destroyed clothing. Searching the remains, you find a small pouch. There is no gold in the pouch. However, as you turn out the contents, you find turn out the contents, 5 potions spill out of the old sack. Boom, there we go. Big Star Wars fan, okay. Again, in good company, hell yeah. Big Star Wars fan here too. Story of a Clone Wars Jedi hero who gets put into the command for Legion. Master's assassination. Okay, alright. Thrust into power. There's your call to adventure that they then have to answer. That's your setup. That's excellent. So your antagonist then, is it like, are you looking for like okay, so now here's what we got to think about. We're doing like Clone Wars type of situation. I guess it kind of depends too on how loose you're willing to use the Clone Wars lore and what specific branch of like Clone Wars lore you're trying to build off of, because there's a lot to work with there, and depending on whether or not you follow Disney's lead and use old canon as canon or abandon that canon, it can kind of impact what you want to do. And it also depends on if you want to be consistent or if you're just doing your entirely own thing, which either one is a perfectly valid approach. Let's see, 5 potions spill out of the old sack. So they're going to have, my default, unless I have a reason for doing it different, my default is to do 3 health potions, or potions of healing, I guess. I always forget the official levels of the potions here, so let me just see here. My game rules. I'm going to magic items, because potions are magic. Don't know what you're looking for, and it's towards the end of the Clone Wars order, so So Order 66. Okay, all right. So it's like, so they're kind of like, it's in that swap over where it's kind of more so everyone's going into hiding than anything. I feel ya. Potion of, looking for like the potion of healing. Potion of healing. Aha. So it's just okay. There's so official rules as written. There's no minor healing. There's just potion of healing, greater healing, superior healing, and supreme healing. It's the one I always forget whether or not D&D has like officially a minor healing or not. Don't know why they make specific things for healing children, but get it, minor. I cracked myself up. Anyway, made a personal squad of clones that help her. It's easier than managing the whole legion. No, definitely. Well, and it's smart to have a smaller cast of characters too, because it makes it easier to build them up, build up their personalities, and have them be sort of defined and endearing characters, as opposed to them just being like a whole mountain of faceless characters that no one really ever cares about. Doing the small amount. Plus, it also makes it's easier for it to make that with the given how the Star Wars Clone Wars storyline kind of played out. It's easier to think about, like, if we were talking about the sort of betrayal of Order 66 and all that stuff, it's easier to think about why a small personal squad of clones might still be protecting her, you know, unless you want them to be the antagonist, in which case you can do the whole betrayal thing. But the fact is, everyone knows Clone Wars, so that's a little played out, so, you know, you might change that up a little bit. I guess the next question is, what kind of journey is she going on? Like, what's the attempted goal that she's trying to do? Squad including Joy, 10, but not all have to be in certain scenarios. Yeah, I mean, 10's going to be a lot to work with. So I would almost recommend choosing out a couple of those ones that are the more charismatic individuals to focus on for the story, for the function of story. I mean, like, you don't want to shortchange yourself, and you want to make sure you use the characters that you need for the story that you're trying to tell. But it's like, just think about books that you read. The more names they chuck at you, the more characters they chuck at you, the harder it is to latch onto them and care about them. Whereas if they give you a smaller collection of very charismatic characters, then it's easier to care about them. So it's something to keep in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is I'm not actually a writer. I'm just a hack who sits here and writes things for fun. So, you know, grain of salt on everything I say. But yeah, I think smaller cast of characters is good. But when thinking about an antagonist, I guess the thing is what kind of story, what kind of journey is your character or your cast of characters going on? Because that'll influence it, right? You want to make sure that the antagonist kind of serves the story you're trying to tell. Hey, Prince John, how's it going? Good to see you. So that's the next question I have is just sort of like, what pathway are they following? Because then you can just kind of think about what barriers would there be there. Don't know the journey. I can pick a few out and make a few. However, originally didn't want them to be bad guy, but still would make sense for trimming the numbers. Yeah, I mean, there's an endless number of ways to go. But I guess that's what I would say your next step ought to be. You've got your characters, so you've got an idea, and you know you want to tell a story. Talk about what the story is going to be. I think it's awesome that you're going for it, and like, you've got the right idea. You just kind of have to do it, right? The more you overanalyze things a lot of times and try to think about things, the easier it is to fall into that analysis paralysis, which is why I always say which is why you just want to just go for it, right? Just start writing things, and then you edit it as you go. But I would say your next step is you ought to think about what story you're trying to tell, you know, broad or detailed terms. That's what I think you're going to want to figure out, because it's going to be a lot easier to think about what details you need to add in that process. Oh, geez. Great. Thank you for the heads up. It's John. Let me see here. Let's see if I can do that. All right. Good call. Good call. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. It looks like the account has been It's saying account suspended or deactivated, so it's not giving me the option to do stuff. I might have to. I wonder if it's already been handled then. I don't know how any of this crap works, man. I'm barely capable of handling this. I might look that up after the stream and see if there's anything else I need to do. But it looks like it's not giving me any other options on what to do. The other good news is I use a VPN, so you can find the IP all they want. It's not actually my IP at that point in time. So, haha. Yeah, good to know. Good to know. I appreciate the heads up. I've definitely had plenty of bots show up in my chat. I know that because they're everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Like you can't do anything online without bots being present. That's just how it is. That's the world we live in now. It sucks, but kind of like how you can't watch TV or a movie without there being advertisements because they put them in the damn movies. Defensive fighter, sneak, force powers. And it's super important. I mean, it can be super important. You can make it super important. It's up to you. Like if that's his powers and that's what makes him unique, then have him save the day. Have him save himself, save his companions or her companions or whoever. Have them save their companions using those powers. That's an excellent thing. But think about what goal they're trying to achieve. So like you talked about, if it's trying to take place in a Clone Wars setting, right? And we understand, we have the privilege of kind of knowing what happens next when we're talking about Clone Wars, right? So we kind of know what the danger is. So think about what the story is. What is Joey trying to accomplish through all of that? Is Joey just trying to escape and survive? Is Joey trying to stop this? Whatever the goal is, how successful are they going to be? And start adding in those elements. But that's when you think about a story, that's what it is. It's a snapshot of someone's life, yes, but we don't tell a story about someone's mundane day-to-day stuff where they're not actually trying to achieve anything, right? We tell a story based on a character's pursuit of a goal, right? That's what makes a story compelling. So what is Joey's goal? What are they trying to achieve? That's what it sounds to me like that's probably what your next thing to hammer out is going to be. That's what I would recommend. Is think about that, because once you understand what the goal is, then it's easy. It's kind of easy to think about what an antagonist would be, because the antagonist is just going to be who or whatever will stop them. Part too much of the inner workings added here to strictly. Yeah, so and right there you're kind of tapping into a bit of what might be the journey too, because maybe the inner conflict is trying to make sense of all of this and sort of that jaded disillusionment, and so part of the journey is trying to make sense of everything that's happened and whether or not what she understands of the world from this experience jives with what she has been taught in her training so far, right? So it's that's a really good thing that you can add to the story. So I think that's kind of the stuff you wanna think about, because this is meant to be. Because it sounds like you're trying to do a very protagonist-driven story. Then think about what their journey is, and then think about who gets in the way and why they get in the way. Is it an antagonist that's just incidentally in the way because they're just present as she's trying to pursue her goal, or are they actively hunting her? So that's stuff to figure out. Not a great leader. That's part of the journey right there. Learning how to become a leader, right? That's part of it. Maybe she finds success in finally learning how to be a leader. All that kind of stuff. So you've got a lot of really good starts, but now you got to think about sort of how those starts are going to push the story forward. Right, and make the story a compelling story. And one of the best things to do is think about what you'd have fun reading, right? What kind of adventures would you have fun reading about this character? And once you figure that out, just write it down. That's kind of the beauty of it. But yeah, so I think you've got a lot of good starts. And just keep going with it. And the thing is, too, is like I say, just start writing crap down. Just because you've written it down doesn't mean it has to stay there forever. You can change it. You can edit it. That's what writing is. Writing is writing down a bunch of crap and then editing it and changing it a little bit at a time until it's not crap anymore. That's largely how I'm approaching this stuff. My thoughts on what this campaign that I'm writing are going to be, like what it is, what it's going to be, where it's going, what the players are trying to accomplish, all that kind of stuff. It's changed so much since I started this project a couple of months ago, right? It changes, and that's what the writing process is. You start off with something, and then you change it a little bit. You don't have to get it right, on the first try. Help trimming the squad down. Yeah, you know what? If you want to get on, I've got my Discord channel. If you want to get on the Discord channel and share it, I've got channels set up for sharing like homebrew stuff and other projects that people are working on. If you want to share it there, by all means, more than welcome. I think you should do that. Just because I don't want to. One is like, if you want help with it, I don't want necessarily the document to disappear in the chat, but the other thing too is chat, like we just discussed, there's bots all over the place. You never know who's in chat. So if it's like a personalized Google Doc or something like that, if you do it in the Discord, we have a bit better control over what the over what the audience is going to see. Like we've got filters to make sure that it's not going to be a bot there. The link to the Discord is in my on my page. If you go to my Twitch page, Twitch, the channel page there, I think it's in the about section. I don't know. There's a link to it, and you can find it there. But yeah, if you want to do that, I can try and find some time. I don't know when I'll have time. I can't make any promises about that. But I do try to check in on it regularly, and when I have time, I check what people are posting and stuff like that. So if you want to do that, by all means, join the community. But let's see here. So I gotta write down some potions here. So we're just gonna do potion of healing, 3 of those, and then I like to just kind of come up with some basic potions that might be helpful in this particular dungeon. I don't think it's that weird at all. I think that it's a project that you are very invested in, and so there is like a certain thrill about sharing what you're writing and working on. I mean, like I'm sitting here, I get excited to talk about everything that I'm working on here, and it's a very personal experience, so I don't think there's anything weird about it at all. Not at all. Okay, that's what I'm trying to find here. We gotta look at some potions here, and we want to just find some common potions. This is a level 1. Rarity, we just want common. Filter magic items. Oh, there's not a whole lot of them. Potion of watchful rest, potion of healing, potion of comprehension, potion of climbing. Those are super handy. Hold on, let me try. Let's add uncommons into there. See what that does. Blood of the lycanthrope and antidote. That's an oddly specific one. Probably not going to be in this cave. Bottled breath. It is breath of elemental air, which when you inhale it, exhale it, or hold it. I like the name of bottled breath because all I can think about is someone burping into it and and just having a bottle of their own breath. Excellent, Enforcer. I will, when I get the chance, hopefully later today, I'll get you verified on the Discord, and we'll get you participating. But that's like how we make sure that there aren't bots and stuff in there. But excellent. Appreciate you joining in. And yeah, like I say, I'll do my best. I can't make promises on how soon it'll be, but I do my best. I do my best. I'm just one man. I don't have infinite time. I wish I did. Potion of animal friendship. Oh, that'd be a good one because it's all just like critters and animals in here. Can do that one. And is there a potion of like light or something? I don't think there is. Not in this level of rarity. So we'll just give them 2 potions of animal friendship. We'll just do it that way. 2x potion of animal friendship. Aw, friendship. It's good. It's happy. All right, so we've got the stuff that's gonna be in here. So now we just gotta actually like put the stuff in here. So let's pull up our objects here. Object tool. We don't need to do a whole lot for this one, honestly. We're just gonna add our sort of roots here. Okay, yeah. See, this is what I mean. We're like all these windows. They cut off all your workspace here. So we'll just go ahead and make this big here. It actually works. So we can zoom in even more. Make it nice and easy. Let's unsnap these. It's a bit easier to get things in. Just adding our little root systems in here, like I like to add, just to make it look more of like a dirt-based one rather than a stone-based. Cave here. But yeah, see, like if we do that and then we do that, it looks like some roots and whatnot. Roots that way. Oh wait, you know what I'm doing wrong? I gotta scale these down. They're pretty big. I wonder why they're looking weird. Let's get our scale down to half. 5. Get that going. Yeah, there we go. See, that looks more like the streams that are, you know, whenever you dig up a thing of earth and you get all the grass roots and stuff coming up there. Grass roots, it sounds like I'm describing some like blues band or something. Can do some of those, and some of these, and some of these. Just throwing random crap. It doesn't really matter. It's all just for thematic flavor and everything. Let's see. We'll throw in one like right there, maybe. Just going along. Kind of a tedious process, but gosh dang it, I love the tedium. I love getting things this detailed. It makes it fun for me. And that's the most important part, my fun. Everyone else can just go to hell. I'm just kidding. I don't mean that most days. There. Some of these. Some of these. And then, there we go. There. Man, unfortunately, if you want to go cliche, go cliche. I think it's impossible to not write things with at least a little bit of cliches in it. And look at what I do. Like, I'm sitting here, I love cliches. I design my dungeons after the Legend of Zelda model. Like, how overdone is that? I mean, cliche happens. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think the trick is to give it heart and internal logic is the most important thing. Make sure it makes sense within itself. You know, so when you throw a twist like that, make sure it makes sense. Make sure there's a good reason for that twist to exist and for the players. You know, if there's going to be a betrayal or something like that, make sure there's a reason that it makes sense that the characters would do that sort of betrayal or a 180. Don't just make it like, you know, like just a random thing for the sake of it being a story like that, you know. I think that's going to be your trick there. But as long as you achieve that, I don't see any reason to avoid going cliche. I love cliches. Sometimes they make things really fun. Just like be aware of what you're doing, right? If something's cliche, lean into it. Don't try to pass off something cliche as being like super serious and meaningful or whatever. Like if it's gonna be cliche, mean it, lean into it, you know, and endear your audience with it as opposed to, you know, just irritating them with it. Which is a tricky thing, easier said than done. I fully recognize that. But I don't know. I guess I'm just saying, you know, don't be discouraged by something being cliche. That can be a perfectly acceptable thing. All right, on to room 6, y'all. I'm just doing this so that way we can see it when we pull up our half here. I'm gonna zoom it out a little bit. Zoom in a little more. We'll just do that there. There we go. Now we can see our room there. All right. So room 6. This is gonna have our boss battle in it. So we're gonna put just like a big giant hyena with a collection of not so giant hyenas in there with it, I think. So underline this. On the evil master idea. I mean, it is an easy antagonist, but like I say, I don't think that's a problem. And it's hard for me to say whether I think that's good or bad because I think it's how you execute it. I think having a betrayal like that is a perfectly valid story thing. I mean, you kind of have two options with any single character. Either there's nuance in between things, but it's either they're good or bad. And like I say, so if that is going to be the case, try and think about, like I say, think about why the master is going to do that. Like, you know, and Like, what was their, think about the master's backstory. What was their motivation for trying to trick everyone in the first place? And then why did they choose now to flip the switch and be evil, right? Because if they weren't originally, you know, like, is it going to be a situation where they've been captured and brainwashed, and that's what makes them evil? Is it a situation where they were evil in the first place and they were trying to infiltrate as a double agent? Within the idea, there's a whole lot there, and that really changes what the tone of everything is. So I think it's going to come down to how you execute it. And I know that's not like super helpful, but you know, like those are there's an infinite number of stuff to think about. That's fine. You don't have to have the backstory yet, but if you're going to put them in your story, I think you should think about the backstory. Is what it is. You know, think about where your characters come from. Like I say, it's the same. It's in the same vein as trying to make sense of what type of story you want your characters to tell. You know, what kind of story are you trying to follow? Understand, like, think of your characters as being real people. They're not just like a 2D, like you can't just think about them as being words on a page, right? If you want them to be compelling and meaningful characters, they can't just be words on a page. You know, you can't just keep it superficial and be like, this is the good guy, they do good guy things. If you want a compelling character, think about who they are, think about where they came from, and think about where they're going. Right? It's the same as, like, you know, it's the same advice as when I'm telling people, you know, giving people advice on how to build a compelling D&D character. Give them a goal and give them a place they've come from. You know, like, you want to think about their goal, and that's a good first step to go beyond just making, like, here's my character, he's an archer and he's kind of rude sometimes. It's like, okay, so you've got that's like the most superficial version of the character. Then what's their goal? It's like, okay, well, my archer, you know, the reason they're, you know, that my archer wants to try and avenge their dead parents' lives, and so they're trying to hunt down the person that killed their parents. It's like, okay, so you've got the next level, right? That's where they're going. Now, where did they come from? You've kind of got it built in there, because it's like, okay, well, their parents were killed, which then explains why they're rude and angry. And suddenly you've got a character that's got depth, a character that people can relate to and understand, right? Give them a reason for being. So I think that it sounds to me like that's kind of what your next step is for all of this. You've got an idea for, like, those basic character traits. Now you got to start thinking about where are they going and where have they come from, right? You know, how does what their, you know, like how has their past influenced who they are now, and how does that influence where they're going? That kind of stuff. Like, start thinking about those things. Understand them on a deeper level as, like, real characters, not just, you know, a collection of descriptors that are then kind of two-dimensionally walking through a space. How locations work. Let's see here. I guess I don't understand the question. How would locations work? What do you mean, how would locations work? Like, just how do you put them in locations, or how do you choose what locations are? I think I need a bit more to understand what you're asking there. Let's see here. So combat. As you enter this room, the smell of wet dog floods your senses. Soon you understand why. As a hulking giant hyena, let's see, rises from where it was previously napping. Anytime. I love discussing this stuff. Like, if you haven't picked up on it, I love discussing, like, theory and analysis behind how to make a good story. Because, like, that's the challenge for me as I'm sitting here creating a D&D campaign, is how do I create a compelling story when I'm not even really writing the story. I'm writing the set pieces for my players to then be the ones who are writing the story, in essence, right? And that's why I think about, you know, I feel like that's why I focus in so much on the stuff surrounding the characters. Like, it's easy enough to create a character, but what about everything surrounding them? You know, what gives them motivation to do this, that, or the other thing? Because when I'm writing this stuff, I have to think about what is going to give my players' characters, what's going to give them motivation? Why do they care about what's happening, right? And some of that is on the players to think about that from their characters, but a lot of that also is on how is the world going to be a realistic place that is meaningful to them and compels them to want to play, you know. And so I think it's all a complicated and fascinating thing, because it kind of ends up coming down to you know, human psyche and human nature in general. Like, what makes us care about a story? What makes us care about things? What is it about one story or another that one story can make us weep tears of joy, while another story makes us say this is trash and throw it in the garbage? You know, it's like what elements of things play into that, and how does that impact how we feel about stuff? You know, I don't know. I think it's fascinating. Treat planets like major cities and stations like small cities. Well, if you're just trying to sort of do like a novel, right? It's just you make the places that serve your needs, and think about, again, if you're making a location, why are your characters there? Why do they go to this place? What are they doing there? Like, you don't want to just have a random place because it seems cool, right? There needs to be a reason that your players are going there, your characters are going there. You know, like, yes, you kind of have just like a set piece of like, oh, it'd be really cool if this takes place in this location. It's like, okay, so that's great. So you have like a character, and then you have a location, but then why are those things together? And you can create whatever you want. You got to think about those things. Otherwise, it's going to be jarring to the reader to think about, like, okay, I understand that they're doing these things, but I just don't understand why the characters came here. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? You know, it's like, even in some of the most superficial things, like, you know, teen horror flicks, like slasher flicks and stuff like that, right? There's at least a reason for them to all be there. It's like, yes, the set piece is there's a haunted house and there's people in there. Why are they in there? Well, at the very least, they'll offer like, oh, it all started when they were doing a Halloween party. Boom, there you go. You have characters that wanted to have a party, so they found a house, right? There's your reason why they're there, right? And so then you got to think about, if you want it to be a good one, you have to think about all the different characters' motivations, where they come from, why they're doing that, you know, and that's where you come into it. And this is why I say that cliche could be fine, because there are a lot of really great slasher flicks out there, right? Some really good ones out there, but the ones that are good take the time to understand the cliches behind the characters. You know, why are the jock and the nerd at the same party, when conventionally we understand, like, they would be in different cliques and they probably wouldn't hang out together, right? So you got to come up with reasons to sort of explain why people are there, otherwise it's going to be jarring to the reader. So as far as locations go, I don't think it really matters the specifics about whether it's, you know, a planet, a major city, a small city. It depends on what your characters are trying to achieve and where they're going to need to go to achieve those things. If you want it to all take place on one city, or like in one city, great. Then you narrow down the focus and talk about specific locations. If you want it to span multiple planets, then you widen out your focus and think about, okay, these different planets, why are they going to these different planets as opposed to going to this shop or that shop within the same city? It's entirely up to you. You just have to have a good reason for why your characters go there. Like, we have to have a reason to understand why they are there. You know, like, you can't just say, like, okay, chapter 2, the ship lands on Waterworld here, and they're doing these things, without giving us a reason for why they're going there, right? You can't just say, like, okay, you know, starting chapter 5, they're now in a clothing shop. It's like, okay, but why are they there? You know, you got to give us some reasons for it, and that's going to be your key thing to think about. Don't sweat so much what the place is. Worry more about why they are there. You know, I guess that's what I would say about locations, is just think about what they need to do and where they need to go to do it. And there you go. There's your answer. At least that's, like, I mean, that's how I'm doing it. Like, so let me pull up our map here, right? So we'll wait for it to load. And so it's kind of a give and take. There's both sides of it. So here's our world, right? And so this is kind of born of a lot of these. So we've got plains, we got mountains, we got forests, right? So we got 3 kind of generalized locations. And these are here because that's just what the world is like, right? And we're focusing on this region. But now we have to think about, if I want my players to then go into these mountains, I have to think about a reason why they're going to go there. I can't just say, like, there's mountains and expect my players to just go there, right? I have to give them a reason to go there. There's got to be a purpose to it. And you can ham-fist it and make it as cliche as you want by saying, like, okay, you need to go there because the thing that you need to try and achieve your goal is in there. That's perfectly fine. That's a reason, right? It can be as simple as that. But now we have a reason for them to go into the mountains. Same with going into the forest. Okay, you need 4 keys is what this campaign is going to do. They need 4 keys to be able to achieve it. Okay, so one of them is in the mountains. Great. Now they've got a reason to go into the mountains. That's all you need. But you need a reason to do it, right? I wanted them to go into mountains, and now we've given them a reason to do it. I want them to go into the forest, so okay, another key is right there in the forest. Boom, there we go. So that's what you're going to want to think about. That's what you're going to want to think about. Okay, let's see here. What are we working on? Let's see here. A giant hyena rises from where it was previously napping. After a large yawn, it looks at you and seems to realize that its den has been intruded upon. It doesn't seem happy about it. Boom, there we go. Okay, so now here's the challenge we're gonna have with this. We need 430 experience points. 200 of them are going to come from our giant hyena there. And then the most sensible thing would be for there to be a collective of, just like a big pile of hyenas, right? Like they're all in a big sleeping hyena pile or whatever. But 200 is only roughly half of our experience points. And with 10 experience points per hyena, that ends up being another 20 hyenas to make up the other half. So we can't really do that. So the obvious solution is to do the giant hyena. We can maybe do 3 regular hyenas also to make our extra 30, because we have to get a 430 experience. And then have just like a group of boars. And I'm almost thinking what we could do is, the way out, so like the way, whoops, I did not mean to do that, although that actually helps me to go down there anyway. So I'm thinking that, with our map here, right, so we've got this thing, and we've got blocked off rooms here, and so really the obvious way, there's a bit of hand waving going on because this is also going to be blocked off, that players are going to need to find a way to get through the roots and stuff like that, but we can kind of hand wave that away and just say magic, I don't know, whatever, just play the game. And then what we can say, so here, talking about characters and why they're there, even just the stupid little pigs that the players are gonna like kill, I'm trying to think about, I'm trying to understand why they would be here, so that there's at least some sort of fictional, like some sort of sensible thing that makes sense within the fiction for them to be there. And the best I can think about is hyenas are sleeping here, and the boars are all over here. So it's like the boars were asleep, the hyenas came in, and the boars were trapped in here because they can't get through that bramble of roots or something like that. Boom. Simple as that. Explained. It doesn't always have to be excellent, but you gotta at least try to give a reason, if you know what I mean. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stick with that. Let's hear. Show them actually attempt to lead troops. Show them building bonds. That makes sense. Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. You've got a lot of good ideas. You've got a lot of really good ideas. You just need to start taking them to the next level and filling in the blanks is what it is. Like, what you've got isn't terrible. You've got some good ideas. You do want your characters. You got to understand, like, if we're going to feel concern for your characters, we've got to understand why they're together and what they're trying to achieve, So I think it's perfectly sensible. And you're talking about this situation. I think you've kind of got a couple different acts figured out with this, right? You got your first act, which is going to be them in the wars, right? And it shows them bonding, but maybe then shows like how your main character is struggling to be a leader. Then act 2 is going to be, things suddenly go wrong with your betrayal or something like that, right? So you got to think about what that next step is. Things go wrong, and they're trying to make sense of that. And then Act 3 is confronting whatever villain or climax you give to them, right? So there's your stuff. So I think you've got a perfectly valid idea there. It's just like that's maybe only the first part of what you're working on. So like I think what you've got is you've got some characters and you want to tell a story about them. So now you need to think about what that story is. I think that's what I think it sounds to me. And again, I'm gathering all this from a handful of comments in the middle of a stream. So grain of salt, I don't know everything that you have, but from what you presented to me, it sounds like you have you have characters and you want to explore those characters. So now you need to think about what story is going to accomplish that. You need to think about what the story is. You know who's in the story. So now think about what that story is, right? Think about any of the other Star Wars things, right? We know who Anakin and Obi-Wan are, but now we have to understand what their story is, right? That's what the story is. It's not just like a biopic about like, a documentary about these characters. We're watching them as they go through a journey. So that's what you need to think about now is what is your character's journey? And you need to start kind of mapping that part out is what it sounds to me like your sort of next step is going to be. Okay, so we've got one giant hyena here. So we'll put that here. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's see here. I'm going to actually finish explaining this. So 3 other hyenas rise with it. Though significantly smaller than the brute before you. Past the hyenas, you can see a small collective of boars. It seems they were asleep in this chamber when the hyenas entered, and have not figured out how to escape past them. Boom, there we go. And then, so one other thing that I'm remembering that I need to do, because this is the boss battle, I need to describe the fact that thick, heavy roots are in the way. Because remember, like, the keys for this dungeon are the rusty machetes, and the boss key for this dungeon, the key to get into the boss room, is a whetstone to sharpen them up. So that way, because like there's roots that are too thick for a rusted machete to go through, but if they've sharpened it, then it can like get through there. Flimsy excuse, I know, but this one is a level 1 dungeon, and we're more focused on the game mechanics more than anything, because we want this to serve as a dungeon that can help introduce new players, at level 1 into how D&D works in general. I always try to make sure my campaigns that start at level 1 can be like newbie friendly, not just like level 1 for experienced players, but like can serve as a good introduction to the game as a whole for brand new players. Because more and more people need to play D&D because it's like the best game in the world. We need as many people playing as possible. Alright, so let's see here. Thick, heavy roots block the entrance to this room. It appears that the tap roots to the trees above run through this passage. We'll just say a simple rusted blade would never cut through these, but a well-sharpened one just might. Boom, there you go. So bad, you want to start the story off battle scene, and then recovering from the explosion from, no, that happens all the time. You start off a story like right in the middle, right in the thick of things. There's nothing wrong with that. You're setting the scene. You're setting the scene of this being an action flick. I would suggest though, if you want to do that, like if you're diving into that, play up, if they're going to recover from an explosion, play up the fact that it is confusing and your main character doesn't know what's going on. Because what you can do, if you do that, so here you go, if you're looking for ideas, if you're doing that, if you set up this confusion, there's a battle scene, they kind of wake up from like a flash concussion or something like that from the explosion, they don't really understand what's going on, you could have that be sort of your starting point, and then suddenly the journey is trying to figure out what happened, right? You can just do something like that. Right, the explosion happens, they don't know, all they know is that like this, that, and the other character are missing, they don't know if they died in the explosion or what, right? It's like in the aftermath, they try to find a body, they don't find a body, it's like, oh, suddenly they're maybe alive, and that sets up, your betrayal, your bait and switch, betrayal, if you want to do that. I think it's a perfectly fine starting point. It does that does a good job of helping us feel like we are in the middle of just a small snapshot of a life that extends before and after. Right, your story. If you begin in the middle of a battle, then it's easy to assume that like, oh shoot, a bunch of interesting things probably happened here, but our story is diving in right here. That's perfectly fine. There's a lot of things that do that. There's a lot of media, books, movies, what have you. There's all kinds of stuff that starts you off that way. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I think there are all kinds of different ways, and I think there's not necessarily a right or wrong thing when writing. There's just good and bad ways to go about what you want to do. Yeah, and I mean, like I say, the one thing that I can't say enough, just start writing it. Just start writing stuff, and then if 5 pages in you realize like, oh wait, no, this isn't a start. This isn't the start that I want after all. Then great, change it. Edit it. You're the writer. That's why books take so long. If all you had to do is just like stream of consciousness, write it all down, then it wouldn't be that difficult to write a book and everyone would do it, right? Like things change as you go and you understand more about your characters and stuff. So just start writing things, right? Like write for an hour and then call it good. And then the next time you want to sit down and write, reread what you've already written, see if you still like it, and then make changes if necessary. Otherwise, keep going. Just start writing. Just start doing it. Don't hem and haw too much over it. At the beginning, because things will inevitably change as you're going. So just get into it. Just dive into it and see where it takes you. Because you might discover the story a little bit more yourself as you're going, and suddenly you realize like, oh, I thought I wanted to write this story, but now as I'm going, I realize I want to write a different story, and that's a perfectly great thing too. See, now that right there is one of the difficult things, understanding whether you want to do first or third person. Here's what I'll say, what I've noticed, and again, everything I'm saying just takes such a big grain of salt, because I went to school for sciences. I've never really taken any writing classes since high school. I'm not a great exceptional writer. I'm just someone who reads a lot and is attentive to what things I enjoy and don't enjoy in the books that I read, and that's where most of my analysis and understanding of writing comes from, is just trying to recreate the things that I like to read. But the general idea that I would suggest that you think about, first person is good if you want to limit the reader's perception of things. So if you want more mystery, if you want readers to learn things, at the same pace that your main character learns things, then do first person, because that puts the reader in the shoes of the main character. If you want readers to have an outside knowledge of what that main character has, if you want them to have an understanding of things beyond what the main character understands, then use third person, because then it's easier for you to explain things happening around the main character. But when it's in the first person, then you're limited to the main character's eyes. And of course, you can mix and match. There's plenty of books that will mix and match. You'll first person from the main character, from the main protagonist, and then it'll jump into third person for others. I think from what you said so far as first person, yeah, I mean, it's all entirely up to you. Start writing it, and if you don't like it, then switch up the tone. Like I say, you can change any of it at any point in time. It's your story. You're the one telling it, so you are 100% in charge. You know, you get to be God, and therein lies the reason that I like to be DM, because I'm in charge. Damn it. But yeah, no, I think just start going for it and try things, and see what works, see what you like. And you know, if you're trying to understand how you want to write a book, read a lot. Read a whole bunch of stuff and pay attention to the things that you like and don't like in the books that you read. You know, beyond just like, I like spaceships and lasers. It's like, well, yeah, that's great. So you know you want to write sci-fi. But what about, you know, this book or that book do you like better than this book or that book, right? Like, because you're not going to like every sci-fi book out there. So think about the ones that you do and don't like, and think about what makes them specifically, like, why do you specifically like this book over that book? You know, start noticing those things. Pay attention to those things. And that's what'll give you a better idea of what you want your voice to be when you're writing. So I got to come up with a big loot hoard for these players. Who's going to have money? So I've got a few resources that I'll use for loot. Is it a loot gen maybe? Yeah, there we go. Give me that loot gen. No, don't stall out on me. Oh no. Okay, apparently that's not working. Random D&D D&D loot. Let's just do that. See what we can find. There we go. The Donjon one. Donjon is always a good fallback. Always. Level 1 coins. Standard valuable, standard items, none. This is just all about the money. There's items elsewhere in this dungeon. This is just a money room. Yeah, we can have gems and art though. That definitely counts. Let's see here. Trade. No, yeah, I don't know that I want miscellaneous salvage. That's just a pain, truthfully. Items. There's no items, so we don't need to worry about that. Individual hordes into one horde. Yeah, we'll do that. I don't think it's going to matter because we're only doing one horde. One level 1 horde is all we're doing. So let's make the loot. Yeah, there we go. Great. That's fine. That's perfect. 500 silver pieces and a star rose quartz. Oh, lovely. Quite lovely. Yes. Yeah, with all that, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine. You know, I don't know. Well, for a level 1 party, I think that's fine. It's a little slim on the money, but that's fine. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to get more money, and all that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Lying in this cavernous room is a busted up cart. It seems as though this has been here as long. Let's see. It's been here for perhaps centuries. Could the giant hyena be a giant frog? It could be whatever we want it to be. I've just already committed to the hyenas thing here. Frogs can certainly show up. I don't know if it would make a whole lot of sense for frogs to be in here. They're in the middle of a prairie. Frogs, I mean, I guess if a frog is going to be in a prairie inside of this cavern, it would be. But I think I'm going to stick with the giant hyena as it stands right now. We'll use the giant frogs. See, what I'm thinking is, if we want to go with giant mutant frogs and shit, we'll put them in our waterfall dungeon up here when we get to it. Like, that's going to be more thematically sensible, because our cave that we're working on right now is right here in the middle of the prairie. It's just like a hillside hobbit hole type of thing. And so in this like giant savanna type of grassland, this is going to be a cave that a lot of, you know, savanna animals are crawling into for protection from the midday heat and stuff. Let's see here. We don't need that alarm today. Alright. Let's see. It seems as though this has been here for perhaps centuries. There seems to be very little of value among the rubble. Even the bones of whatever poor souls. Frog of Death. I mean, Frog of Death is definitely definitely a thing that can happen. Although I feel like it would be more fun to call it the Frog of War, just so you could get a fun wordplay on the Fog of War there. Um, the frog of war that tends to make it very difficult for you to understand what's going on. It's like a hypnotoad, and it kind of jumbles up your brain so you can't understand things. I actually really like that idea. I'm gonna have to like file that away in my brain space and use that later. I'll credit you for it if it becomes a famous idea. The frog of war. even the bones of whatever poor souls once sought there it is, refuge in this cave have long been turned to dust by time or the digestion of these hyenas. Boom, there we go. All right. Well, I'm gonna turn to dust. However, a small rag among the wreckage. Wow. Okay, hold on. First off, let me spell that correctly. Small rag among the wreckage. There it is. Catches your eye. When you move the cloth, it reveals a half buried pouch. In the pouch is a small pile of coins and a single lovely gem. Boom, there we go. And then we'll just add our things here. And just to make it easier for players, we're going to say 50 GP and then one, what was it, Star Rose Quartz? Was that the one that it said? What did it say? Star Rose Quartz. I feel like that's a tongue twister right there. One Star Rose Quartz. And that's worth 40 value. Boom, there we go. Stomach gnome who lives in the giant purple worm stomach and feeds on the dead. Jesus, that sounds nasty. For the gnome and by the gnome. Just like a weird cannibalistic gnome sitting in a. How does the gnome not get digested by the worm? That's what I want to know. I want to know what kind of magical clothing that gnome has. That right there has some interesting that has some potential to be a real Tom Bombadil type character that no one really understands how they survive. Just far less endearing than Tom Bombadil. And I will die on that shield. I know some people hate Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil is one of my favorite characters, and I think it's because I always have fascination with, as someone who does zero in so much on backstories and whatnot, I love the concept of a character that has a backstory that is very hidden and mysterious in a world that is otherwise sensible and focused on the logical here and now. I love the concept of a character that just sort of defies that, you know, and so that's what Tom Bombadil is to me. That's what Tom Bombadil means to me. Oh dang, I gotta come up with a puzzle in this room. Oh boy, this is gonna be tough. Okay, so puzzle. Actually, you know what, before we do that, I do need to decorate our hyena room. So let me do that really quickly here. We gotta decorate this. First off, we gotta add all of our roots and stuff that are going to block up our main thing. And I think if we're going to, I need to scale these all down to 0.5. So, but we're gonna go ahead and put like a nice, big, like thick collection of hefty roots. Right, and actually I kind of got to do the same over on this side. Just do that there, call it good enough. But now we're just gonna lay it down a bunch of other roots over here. Don't know who Tom Bombadil is? Tom Bombadil is, if you read the Lord of the Rings books, Tom Bombadil is a character that the hobbits encounter early on their journey towards Rivendell, and it gets criticism oftentimes because Tom Bombadil doesn't really serve a purpose to the story except for to distract the hobbits from their journey for a little bit. He never really shows up again, and his character is kind of intentionally described as being mysterious and unknown, and no one knows who the crap he is or what he's doing there. And so a lot of people are like, what was the point of that? Which is a legitimate question. because it kind of, I mean, it really even kind of flies in the face of everything that I'm saying about, like, make sure your characters have backstories and reasons to exist and stuff like that. Tom Bombadil doesn't really have that kind of stuff. But that's kind of why I find him so fascinating, because I consider it such an important thing to have the backstories, that I think, you know, having a character like that that doesn't have a well-defined backstory, at least not one that your readers, or rather the characters, are going to know and understand. I think that, like, ends up being your curveball that makes things interesting. So I'm a huge fan of good old Tom. I think he's a fun character, and I will die on that hill. I will fight for his honor all day, every day, because I think he's a beautiful character. He's a beautiful, magical man, and he deserves our respect. All right, just adding some roots here to make things kind of appear interesting. Make it a little sparse in some areas. Do that. Oh, you know what we should do? We should add some, like, truffles here, right? And that's, like, why all of the boars were in this room as well, right? Because they wanted to eat up the truffles that exist, and they were working their way through all of them shrooms. There we go. There's our I don't know. It's a weird random dungeon. This dungeon actually doesn't have a whole lot of cohesion with the overall storyline. This dungeon really is meant to be a resource to let players just kind of have some fun with their new characters that they've just made, their new level 1 characters. Like, that's entirely what this is supposed to be. And so it'll have a tie-in once they complete it. There's the sort of tie-in, but it's not actually this cave. It's just this cave is a vessel for, you know, kind of introducing them to the story and the campaign in general. Okay, so we got that. We need to get some cart wreckage here. So let's go here. Let's do cart. Do they have busted carts? So there's a regular one. Let me try doing. Let's just do wreck. Aha! Yeah, see, there we go. Wagon wreckage. That's what we want. We want to do our standard size, though. Let's grab our wagon wreckage. That's kind of big. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit just so it doesn't look quite so. Because, like, if it's too big, it's going to be like, how on earth did they get it back there? And so that's narrow enough. It fits through the tunnels there. So, yeah, someone was just like, they pulled it in nice and deep to try and hide from all of the craziness of the unhinging and everything. And here's what we're going to do. Let's put the wreckage, like, just right there. And I'm going to go back to, let's go to the things we've used, put it over top. I'm going to put, like, I don't know, a couple, like, large sticks and roots in there just to kind of add a little bit to it. Haven't figured out the Ice Force powers yet. I mean, it sounds to me like, I mean, it's the Force. The Force is space magic, so you can kind of do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You don't gotta apologize for the speed that you reply. It's whatever. It's whatever, baby. I'm sitting here streaming, working on my own stuff too. It's no problem. It's no problem. So that one's gonna be on you, because that's entirely your idea. Trying to figure that one out. But I think at that point in time, it's just kind of like, it sounds like a rad thing. And I mean, it's the Force. The Force is space magic. You can kind of just do whatever you want to do with it. I mean, they've got lightning force damage. Why not cold force damage? No, I don't see any reason to. That doesn't exist. I mean, I guess I would just say, make sure that if you're giving them powers, make sure there's limits to the powers, because it can be kind of dull and eye roll inducing if it's too overpowered. And so, as much as I love the Harry Potter series, it's the one problem that I always have with the magic within Harry Potter, because it doesn't always follow its own internal logic. So there kind of tends to be just a like, oh, we need to achieve this. What do you know? There's a specific spell exactly for that. How about that? And it's like, for a kid's story, it's like, great, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But just from, like, a lore standpoint and everything, it's kind of like, ugh, God. Like, could it be more perfect? Jeez. But then again, here I am playing D&D, and D&D tends to kind of do the same thing. That's why so many games, magic is considered to be pretty OP. So you can kind of just do whatever you feel like with it. Okay, so there we go. So there's our boss battle room. We got that figured out. Now we got to figure out. Now I got to think about a puzzle. Oh boy. Boy, oh boy. So And this has the compass in here. So here's the other thing that I got to think about. So the map was thoughts on limitations. I mean, you know, just limitations in the sense of like, you know, make sure that they can't like shoot ice for 7 miles, right? Like if there's going to be something like that. Like a limitation could be like they've got ice powers, but only if with things they physically touch. So they can't just like spray ice at people, you know, like that's a limitation. Or vice versa, they can only spray ice chunks. They can like create an ice shard and throw it, but like that's the only thing they can do. So it's like not just this like never-ending list of ice and cold themed things, is what I'd say. Bad or other foot, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, they've got their specialty and like they're limited in that. I mean, that's just sensible writing in general. That's not even a force power specific thing. It's just something in general. If someone's got a strength, don't make like this. It's one of the reasons why that's kind of one of the reasons why I have a hard time finding characters like Superman to be super compelling, because unless they just conveniently have kryptonite, which is, again, why does every jackass and their brother have kryptonite? You know, it's like, unless someone specifically has that, Superman is untouchable, which is kind of lame and boring. Force push but could freeze someone. Yeah, like if they have just like a force field of ice or something like that, that's totally fair. Hey, Muffin Queen, how's it going? Good to see you. So, but yeah, I guess limitation is just more so like, I guess what I mean is like, think about like some discrete powers, and they can use those discrete powers creatively, but just don't have it be a blanket thing like, oh, anything that's like cold damage they can do, you know, because then it just kind of gets a little too like, you know, it's just like too convenient that they always have everything, you know. Give them limitations. Okay, God, man, puzzle. What on earth what kind of puzzle would exist in like a little cave here, man? I don't know. Just make like a maze of just like really thick roots or something like that. I don't know. Oh boy. Let's see here. Nice. Lunch hour is the best part of work, no doubt. No doubt that's the best part. Any ideas? Man, if I think of any, I'll let you know. But it's your story, baby. Just start brainstorming. Just start brainstorming stuff, man. It's your story. I'm trying to think about a damn puzzle for a hyena cave. A math test. Yeah, I mean, I want it to feel like it will make sense to be in here. Is the trick here. I know we've got, so for the other thing too is I gotta think about what the like compass would be. Oh, I know exactly what the compass would be. Because compass is just like a generalized term. Compass. I always like the word compass because there's the word ass in it. Alright, compass. Lying in this room there appears to be, let's see, it appears to be a small bit of parchment with writing on it. Let's see here. A closer look reveals that it is a list with numbers 1 through 10 written in a column. Next to each number, a word is written. And then as just note, just to save myself time, we're just going to say numbers and words are the number of the room and the valuables that exist in that room, is what we'll just do there. And then what we'll also do is, this is a key to a map that can be found in room, let's see here, room 3, that's the one, room 3. The guy who was making the map was listing out the valuables he found in each room. That's it. And actually, here's what we'll do. Let's say to each number is a word written. Let's see. There. On the other side there seems to be a journal entry of some sort. The ink is faded, but from what can be read, players gather that this was an explorer who was noting the valuables in each room with intent to grab only the most, well, no, let's hear, with the intent to preserve what was as a historical endeavor. I don't know, it's flimsy and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. Ice shocking grass, maybe, yeah. If you can think of a way, I guess I would just say, like, how does that end up impacting the person who's grabbed? You know, like, does one prevail over the other? What does it look like? What does it feel like? You know, think about it that way, and just make sure there's like some sort of sensible thing. But yeah, you can do that. You can do whatever you want, baby. You're the one writing it. You're the one writing it, baby. That's all. It's all you. It's all you. Okay, so the puzzle. I know what we'll do. The puzzle is just like a little lockbox that contains this. So the puzzle, we'll just say, in this room there is a, here we go. In this room there is a corpse that, though well decayed and mummified. Let's see, in this room there's a corpse that, though well decayed and mummified, is much fresher than the rest you've seen in this cave so far. Let's see here. On their person is a pack with a few worn out bits of adventuring gear. And a small locked container is what we'll say. Container. There doesn't seem to be a key anywhere nearby. Players must lock pick the box to open it. And then everything is going to be inside. It's not going to be lying around. It's going to be on the inside. There we go. There's our puzzle. Our puzzle is just a simple lockpick, but that's fine. That's fine because they're all level 1s. Like, I don't want this to be too complicated and require too many checks for them to fail. Like, this is just for, it's level 1. It's just for, like, new players and new characters to, you know, figure out the mechanics and understand what abilities they have. So we'll say, in the box, so in the box there, here, you know, we'll just throw them a bone here. There is, we'll say 40 gold worth of coins and what appears to be a small bit of parchment. This look reveals that it's a list. Storing the valuables of each room to preserve was a historical endeavor. However, this adventurer notes that they were bitten by a snake and intended to rest a bit to let their heel up. Get it? Their heel needs to heal. Oh, that's great. Their heal before continuing on. There are no more entries, suggesting the snake was poisonous and the adventurer died shortly after. Boom, there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Alright. Let's see here. So, and so what we'll do is we'll just add our 40 GP, give them a little extra money. Why not, right? And then actually what we'll do is we'll say parchment, and then here, and then we'll make all these like sub bits of that one there. Boom. Perfect. What time is it? 1:21. Alright. We got, let's decorate this. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna decorate this room, and then I think at that point in time, oh shoot, you know what? I do need to add one little bit of detail here. Let's see here. A tangle of roots blocks the entry to this room. Some sort of cutting implement will be necessary to get anything beyond a mouse through this mess. Boom, there we go. Okay, that's like the key. That's like the key. They need the key. Which are like the machetes that are lying around. Okay, there we go. We got that description. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate this room, and then I think that's going to bring us to the end of writing stream time. After that, we are doing some Mass Effect streaming afterwards. So if that's something you're interested in, you can stay tuned. I'll be taking a short break like I usually do, just for the sake of like resting up my voice and everything. But once I'm done with that break, we'll be back. But first, we're gonna finish up this room. So we do need our roots and stuff coming out the walls and all that jazz. And we do that. Adds a little bit of flavor and pizzazz when we can do that like that. It really doesn't matter. It's all just whatever. We're just trying to make things look a little bit more interesting and lively and more like an underhill. Like I keep saying, I want this to look more like an underhill type of cave as opposed to just like a seaside stone-based cave or something like that, right? There's a different feel that we're going for here, and I'm trying to make that sort of atmospheric for my players so that they can enjoy it. Some roots everywhere. So many roots. How there get to be so many roots in this one place? Oh, I know. It's because there's plants all over the place. And there we go. Perfect. So we'll do that. And then we just got to add a little corpse. Just got to add a little corpse here. Go to all. Fun thing, we can just do corpse. Look at all these corpses here. It's kind of a mummified corpse, but not really a mummified corpse. We'll just go ahead and I don't know, a dude. Oh shoot, hold on, we need to put this back to 1. Boom. Okay, so there's just our dude.
And a writer are looking for somebody who brings
Dead.
everything to the table.
And then can we do like a pack? I guess. Okay, yeah, I guess we'll.
You know, who brings the art, who brings their vision, and particularly who bring their brain to the table.
It'd be a really big pack for that guy to be hauling around all the time.
They're aware of what they're doing and they're making conscious choices.
Even that's pretty big. Hold up. Down a little bit more. That's more of the size that we're looking for. And watch this. We'll just like, boom. See, it's a backpack. Boom! He's got his backpack on. All right. There we go. All right. You know what? Just because we haven't done one in a little while too, I'm gonna add a little bit of water into this room here. Let's make this smaller here. Zoom in. We'll just put like a little bit of, just like a little puddle or something there in the corner. That's all we need. Bump out a little bit like that. Just to make it look kind of puddly and stuff like that. There we go. That just adds a little bit of flavor. I don't know. Mixes it up a little bit. Takes up a little bit. All right. Look at that. We're making good progress. We only got a few rooms left. Unfortunately, we'll have to finish up those rooms next week because I am going to bring today's rating stream to an end here so that we can, like I say, I can take a little bit of break before going into some writing. Normally, I would stream tomorrow, however, because I normally stream Fridays. However, tomorrow I will be driving 7 hours, which means I will not be at my computer, which means there will not be a stream tomorrow. So no stream tomorrow, and it's the same story on Monday. Normally I would stream on Mondays as well, but Monday I will be driving back. I'm taking a trip, and I'm very excited about it. It's a training retreat for with my kickboxing gym. It's gonna be awesome. Gonna do a lot of training. And additionally, we're going to a location that's got a whole lot of like different hiking trails and just a whole bunch of great natural features and stuff to enjoy and explore. So it's going to be a really good like outdoorsy trip aside from us just, punching and kicking each other. So it's going to be a great trip. I'm super stoked about it, but it does mean that I will not be around to stream. So no stream tomorrow, no stream Monday. I do intend to be back on Tuesday though. So if you are wanting to get be around for the next stream, then that's the time to do it. And I will try and update all my announcements on the Discord and on my Twitch channel, so that way people will hopefully be reminded if they're looking for that and wondering why I haven't been streaming in a couple days. So that's what's coming up in my life. That's what's going on. Yeah, that's like kind of all the announcements. I've already mentioned it, but I'll mention it one more time. Self-plug. I do have my Discord there, so if you're interested in sharing more ideas beyond just the time slots of these writing streams, then by all means join the Discord. We kind of talked about it. I love when people share their homebrew ideas and different writing ideas and stuff that they're working on. I think it's awesome that people want to share that kind of stuff. I think it's super fun. So feel free to join that if that's your bag, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, let's see here. First round, share that idea on the Discord. Once I get you approved, I'll hopefully do that later this afternoon. Because I gotta cut the stream off here, so that way I can get myself geared up to play some Mass Effect. That's what's coming up next. So if you're interested in watching me play some video games, by all means, stick around, and I will be back in like 15-20 minutes. If that's not your jam, then that's totally fine. We will hopefully see you next Tuesday when I'm back to writing. Either way, you guys are awesome. Super awesome discussions about sort of writing theory and all that kind of stuff today. Super fun having those discussions. I love doing that. So that's rad. But yeah, you guys are cool people, and I appreciate each and every one of you that comes here. But yeah, I gotta call it a day. So, well, not a day. I gotta call it a writing stream. I'll be back in a little bit. But either way, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please take care of yourselves, and I'm super pumped to see you next time. But until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. Yeah, the stream's over, so I'll see you later. Okay, bye.